Hello and welcome to One United. My name is Parithos Joshi and I'm here along with Anshuman Joshi and Wali Siddiqui talking about Manchester United once again. There's a game in hand, AC Milan. We're going to San Siro for the away fixture, the second leg of the Europa League. We have drawn 1-1 at Old Trafford, courtesy a very late goal conceded. And now we go to the San Siro to qualify for the next round. I'll talk to Wali and Anshuman about this. A new contract extension for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, injuries, Pogba's return, and the director of football being appointed at Old Trafford. First of all, welcome Anshuman Wali. What are your thoughts about the previous few games? We'll have a little chat about the West Ham game, the Milan game, because we have not come live for a long while now. I'll talk to Wali first.
Well, yes, the Milan game and the West Ham game, it's been the same old Manchester United. We did get the result against West Ham United, and we were clinical. We were clinical. Actually, we were not so clinical. It was an own goal, and we were resolute at the back. And the thing that I was quite confused to see was that David Moyes actually didn't attack us as he did uh, in the reverse fixture.
City.
If you remember that first half, that West Ham
Also the
dominated
City
us.
game. Also,
Yeah,
they were more free against City. We
yeah,
they
yeah.
were they
This
were
is
quite complacent.
exactly they showed us a lot of respect for some reason. I do not know why. And even when they were trying to hit us on the break, it was I felt sorry for Antonio because he was the only one out there, and to have that fluidity in pass, he just passed it at the back more number of times than he should have moved the ball forward. So it was a negative tactic from David Moyes, and yes, it's difficult to break down such defense, but we somehow managed to do it once again. And if you talk about the Milan game, uh, we were on the verge of getting a big win. We were about to get that win. Although I feel that Milan played us out of the park. They were not clinical when they got their chances. I thought Frank Kessié, if there's a defensive midfielder that we're looking to sign, if there's a central midfielder that we're looking to sign, I think that was a perfect audition for a central midfielder. I would go all in to get that guy because the way that Kessie was dominating McTominay, Fred, and our defense. The way that he was tackling them, intercepting the balls, moving the ball, pass and go, and then even if you look at his finish, I do not know why it was disallowed. I probably it was touch and go. Yes, probably it was a hand, probably it wasn't. But yeah, he seemed like one of those players. And at the end, once again, succumbing under pressure, another set piece, another corner, another goal. Dean Henderson should have done better, but yeah, it was one of those games where I wasn't surprised. I'm just used to it. Us not dominating games as much, waiting for a moment of brilliance from Bruno, Rashford, etc., and some other player, Greenwood, and just sitting back and. But you also have to blame. I think the reason why we haven't been doing well is because our midfield pivot, man. I'm sick and tired of Fred and McTominay now. It hasn't been fluid. It hasn't been fluid at all. Those two players are just good at intercepting the balls. Yeah, Scott McTominay, when there's a little pressure on him, he can lob the ball and he can have that incisive pass. But when the pressure is on them, you need someone like probably a Paul Pogba over there. We're missing out on a central midfielder, and I feel
Will be back.
that is
Will be back for the Milan game.
yeah, who'll be back? Who'll be back? We'll discuss about him. But I feel if we get a settled defensive midfielder, see, I think that is a key right player that we need right now in the transfer market. We might be more fluid because this is something which we're missing.
Okay. So now I'll come to Anshuman. Anshuman, what are your thoughts about the West Ham and the Milan game?
Well, they weren't very nice performances now, were they? I mean, if you talk about the Milan game, we had a lot of things going in our favor. I mean, sure, we did not have a lot of players on our side, but Milan's entire front line was completely decimated. When you look at the fact that they had all of their big players in Zlatan, and I mean, I think Ante Rebic was also out, Salamakas,
Yeah,
Jans Peter Haga, Theo Hernandez in the
Charanoglu,
back, and their captain Alessio Romagnoli in the midfielder, Hakan Çalhanoğlu.
Theo
So
Hernandez
they
wasn't
had
there
very
as
little to
well.
go on. Theo Hernandez was not there. And so
Yeah,
they came with very little already. And the only thing that we needed to do was to not give them an away goal because that would have put us in a lot of advantage. I mean, if we would have recorded a preview match, I would have said that a nil-nil draw would be perfectly fine with us. Because then going into the next match, we will not have to worry about any prospect of an away goal and we could score one ourselves. That did not happen. I think the only positive of that game was Amar's goal because for 18 years old,
Mhm.
he looks really, really a
yeah,
very mature guy. and that is a prelude for a lot of things to come. Because if he's going to perform like that, I don't see why he at least should not be in the senior squad, playing for us and making sporadic appearances. That was that match. I think again once again we conceded in the night in the death, and that doesn't really look good because it now it seems like there's a pattern emerging. And Dean Anderson, for all the good that he has done, there is a very good case to make that that is a goal that he should have been able to stop. That's fine, man. The goalkeeper mistakes happen all the time. There's not a lot we can do about it, and we are conceding goals. That is alarming, especially towards the end. I mean, otherwise, when you look, if you look at the defensive record recently, we have been surprisingly good. Like I don't know how many clean sheets we have now. We now have it's like 4 or 5 or something in the league itself that we haven't conceded a goal. And I know that doesn't sound like something very optimistic when you are when on the other side you are not scoring any goals either. But that is what it is. And I think in the Milan game we should have been able to come away with a victory because then again we had two glaring misses that Harry Maguire missed from the corner and that day Daniel
Oh,
James missed. And
oh my
there's
God.
a lot that can be said that okay, it's a fast coming ball, things happen, all of that, but there is very little excuse to make for misses like that. They happen, but they shouldn't happen, and that was something like that. So once again we shot ourselves in the foot in that match. So and when you come to the West Ham game, once again, I think it was more on David Moyes not really doing a lot on the attacking front. I think they had a lot of chances to go there because if you look at the top four contenders, they have very little, very little, the least amount of pressure on any teams that are vying for a Champions League place right now. And they could have gone in. They could have been a lot more fearless. I understand that Lingard was not there for reasons, but I think they had enough in their squad to be able to get a goal. That was, I think, that was more, more credit to us that we were able to see that game out because again I was wondering that we might going to concede another goal again. And yeah, that was a known goal, wasn't a very impressive performance, but defensively what I remember from that match was Harry Maguire being my man of the match for that occasion because it's not just he defended well, he came across as a leader, and that was very rare for me because I have been the first person to criticize him and keep saying that he's a good player, overpriced but good defender, probably our best defender, and because of his price tag, he'll always get a lot more criticism. But he's not leader. He's not a leader in the most formidable kind. He's more of a supporter kind of player. But that was not the case against West Ham. He was formidable. He was unbeatable. He was absolutely amazing. And he was shouting. He took the charge. So he came across as a leader. And that might just be the case for that particular match. I think we have to wait and see how it pans out for the rest of the season. But that was again one of the optimistic things. So yeah, overall the performance was not particularly good over the in the past two matches, but there were few positives to take.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the previous two games, which we weren't able to talk about earlier. Now we'll come to the main focus of tonight's episode. AC Milan versus Manchester United at San Siro in the UEFA Europa League. It's going to be a cracking encounter, one which has a lot of traction attached to it. There's a lot of respect amongst both the supporters because both of the teams are European elite, not doing very well recently in the Champions League, not have been consistent enough. But now finally things are shaping up for both of them, for AC Milan and for Manchester United. So it's good that these two teams are colliding. There is common factors as well. Zlatan Ibrahimovic, a guy who played for us, who had a good season for us, is now back at a place where he once played, and the guy is not looking like he is aging, and that is not very good for us as Manchester United, as he'll be back for the game. I'll talk to Anshuman first about the game. What do you think about the game against AC Milan?
Well, like you said, there are so many parallels to draw between Milan and United. I mean, the red half of two formidable footballing cities in two different countries who have not really been playing that well over the past decade. They are working under two managers that were supposed to be there in limited temporary capacity, but because things went so well, they were not there. They were now given full time charge, and they are both going for Champions League places in their respective leagues. And they were at one point in the top of the league, but understandably fell behind because they don't really have that squad at the moment, and it's a work in progress. And they have exciting young squads, and peppered with experienced players up front and at the back that can help set young players. So a lot of parallels to draw between two teams, but I think the biggest difference between us and Milan right now is that we are relatively speaking in a more comfortable position as far as our top four hopes are concerned. Milan are currently second, but Juventus is behind just because they have a game in hand against Napoli. And there are a lot of teams much closer to Milan in Serie A than there are to Manchester United in the Premier League. So I think going into this match, there can be an opinion that it can be said that AC Milan will be more happy to relinquish their European charge if they are to secure a top four position, because for them the securing top four in Serie A is more important than winning a Europa League trophy. For us, it's more about that we need a silverware, we need to make our mark, we need to get past the semi-final. That's not the case for them. And if they do for some reason are not able to qualify beyond this point tomorrow, they will get a lot more time to rest and training to be able to secure that Serie A. So that is, I think that is Milan's priority. But I don't think they're going to come into that match thinking about that much about that. I think they will come to win. It is their home match. So losing at San Siro is never a good idea. And comparing between the two teams, I think players are returning for both parties now. I think Pogba is back into the squad playing for tomorrow. Whether he'll start or come from the bench, that is yet to be seen. Cavani and Van de Beek have at least returned to training. So that's important for us, if not for the match, then for the rest of the season, because our squad was feeling quite decimated. And that image of, that particular clip of Bruno Fernandes limping towards the corner towards in the end of West Ham match, and a tired looking Rashford just sitting on his haunches at the end, it was a really alarming one, because we know Rashford is already playing through an injury, and Bruno, for all you can say that it is, as in your media training, you are told a lot of things to just say that, oh no, we are not tired, we are always gunning for the next match. And that might be true to a certain extent, but you need to manage these players properly. And both Maguire and Bruno just play week after week, throughout the week, in the middle of the week, and they need some rest, and we are not able to give them that rest, because every match is like is like a cup final for us. We need to win it, and every time we don't win it, people are up in arms again, and they need to secure the points as well. So I think players coming back is a good point for us as well. I think the most alarming part for us is that we are going at a slight disadvantage, because AC Milan, if they can dish out an nil draw, they will go through. They have the away goal advantage. And the other side of this argument, of course, is that we don't really need to win the match. Any draw upwards of a 1-1 result will give us give us the victory. We won't necessarily have to win at San Siro. And people are saying that our away record is brilliant this season, but our away record in the European matches is the reason we are playing Europa League in the first place. So there is a lot of angles to that story as well. So I think the fact that Milan are now back on with have a lot of players. Most importantly, Zlatan in their in their last Serie A match. Theo Hernandez came back. I think Alessio Romagnoli came back, and they Casper Salamakas, Jans Peter Haga. So they have their players returning as well. And if they were able to play the way they were without their players away from home, I don't really know how good they can. And at San Siro, and as Wally already pointed out, Frank Kessie was absolutely amazing. And there is an argument here that that goal, albeit rightly by the law at the moment, that was ruled out, but that was a well taken goal, and that just as well could have stood. So things could have been a lot worse for us as well. So yeah, we're going at a disadvantage. We need to take the game by the scruff of its neck. We need to start well, and I think we are going to go a lot all guns blazing, because we need to. This is as good this is our direct rival for the for the trophy, as far as we are concerned. And our immediate rivals in the other rounds are also preparing well. When you look at the Real, you look at Tottenham, Arsenal, they're all doing quite well. So things are not going to get easy for us. So if we really don't want to make a mark that yeah, we are in here, we want to win this trophy, we are good enough for a silverware, you need to beat Milan tomorrow. Because if you don't, then it's completely fine. It's a possibility. They are a direct rival. They can just as well beat us. But then questions will be risen again as to how far this Manchester United side is from actually winning a trophy. So yeah, for United, it's an important match tomorrow, and things are only going to get much more hard from this towards the business end of the season.
Okay, so that is the case for Anshuman. Ali, I'll now come to you. What do you think about the AC Milan game and all the complications regarding it?
Like Anshuman earlier said, that two elite European clubs, it's just sad to see how they've fallen. But yeah,
Hmm.
steadily you can say that they are on their way back up, way back up. And let's just see how it phases out. But at the moment, I'm happy with one thing, that we are going into this fixture as the underdogs. Because when we go in a fixture as the underdogs, we usually perform more often than not. And when we have a lead to defend, when you think, yeah, this is something that we'll do something very comfortably, we often manage to screw up. So basically, we just have to win the game tomorrow. We cannot. It cannot be a goalless draw. It cannot be 1-1 or 2-all. You just have to win the game by hook or by crook. And I think it's going to be an interesting watch. But yeah, we have our players coming back. I think Paul Pogba, even if he's 70-75% fit, he has to start. We lack creativity in the central midfield. We need him. The only creative output that we get is from Bruno and from the left flank. The right flank right now is non-existent. Nothing. It's quite easy to basically predict what Manchester United are going to do and how they're going to attack. So yeah, but with the likes of Zlatan coming back, Theo Hernandez, you have Hakan Çalhanoğlu, I guess he'll be fit as well. And then one thing which impressed me, one player who impressed me also, apart from Kessie, was Diego Dalot. So I hope Ole Gunnar Solskjaer actually sees him quite carefully, quite cautiously, and we need Dalot
No,
back at
he's
the
coming
club.
back. No, no, he's
I
coming
hope
back.
so.
I think it
I
is.
hope so because
I think it is confirmed that he'll be coming back in summer.
yeah, but I
It's
hope so
confirmed, I
because
think.
even though I'm a big fan of Van Bissaka, but if you compare Van Bissaka's progressive movement to Diego Dalot, it's like chalk and cheese at times, and we saw that in the previous game. He's
The
almost like
the
a
thing
right
with
winger,
the thing with Delo is that I prefer him more of as a right mid rather than a right back because he's
and
very
exactly yeah,
advanced and you can his progression can be more of a like Gareth Bale who started off at the left back position and then moved forward. I want to see Delo as a more progressive one because we also lack creativity from the right hand side and Delo
right.
can provide that.
Exactly. That's it. And let's not forget that Aaron Van Bissaka doesn't have competition at all towards the right. Like Luke Shaw has
Yeah,
Alex
yeah,
Telles. Van Bissaka doesn't have anyone, so he can, he could basically improve if Delors comes in once again. And like I said, I think that Diego Delors, if you're playing against the lower block teams, I think Diego Delors and Luke Shaw can wreak havoc next season because of their
yeah,
runs that they make.
yeah.
Anyway, so coming to tomorrow's game, I think, yeah, I'm happy that we're going in as the underdogs, and I have low expectations to be very honest. If we go through, that'll be good. That'll be great because we beat Milan, and that would do our confidence a word of good. But if we crash out, I don't think I would be disappointed to an extent because I Milan they seem like the better. They played us off the park in the first leg. To be honest, they were the better team.
You finally
So
learned, Wally. You finally learned.
yeah, because I this is a point that I'll talk about when we talk about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I've given it a thought. I'll talk about that later as to why I feel this now. So, anyways,
Hmm.
I think it's gonna be I think it's gonna be tight, but we will probably get a goal. And we will try to defend it. I think it's gonna be either 1-0 to United, and then we defend for our lives, or it's
Hmm.
going to be I don't know. It's going to be a close game. It's not going to be 2-0 or 3-0 for any team. I think it's going to be quite tight. So this is what I feel.
Okay, so that's it for the whole game, and we'll take the lineup and the prediction at last. But now we'll talk about something that has recently occurred, and that is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to sign a new contract. That is the latest development that has happened at Old Trafford. And we were to talk about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and now we will. I'll talk to Wally first because he wanted to have a say about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So off you go. Let's have a
Yeah.
talk about the new contract being proposed to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
So this is what I feel about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. When he came in, all right, we all were quite excited to see him as our interim manager, even if it was for a very short while, because he was then appointed as a permanent manager. Because the fluidity that we had in attack was something which we hadn't seen since Sir Alex Ferguson. Hand to heart, I'm being very honest. If you remember that first game against Crystal Palace, that itself laid a blueprint of how he wanted us to play. And even if you look at the players that he started, forget the defense, just look at the midfield. It was Pogba, Ander Herrera, Jesse Lingard, Anthony Martial, and Marcus Rashford. We did not depend on two CDMs. But then later on, we went on winning. We went 14 or 15 games unbeaten. All of a sudden, you get beaten, and then the rest of the teams figure out what your weakness is, and we are not able to improve as per that. Then Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, after the season, makes his demands. Probably he doesn't get the targets that he wanted. And then what does a manager do if you do not get the targets that you want? You have to be if you're an individual, if you're working at a job, and let's say tomorrow you're about to get sacked, and it'll be headlined all over the world. You would feel like a complete loser. So rightfully so, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will try his best to not lose rather than go for the win. And to not in when you have that mentality of not losing, you can actually get a moment of brilliance from the quality players that you have, and you could actually get the win, which has been the case this season. Because we have, I'm being very honest, we haven't played good football at all this season. It's been terrific. I'm sorry, terrible, snooze fest at times, but somehow we've crossed over the line. So this is something which Woodward also has to see. And at the same time, if you're not getting the results, if you try playing courageous and brave football, if you're trying to be on the attacking front, you get pammed 4-0 followed by 2-0. You win the next match, then once again you lose. You draw the next match, but you win in high and handsome manner once again. It'll be a moment of time when Woodward will eventually sack you. So keeping in these things in mind, you have to go for a safe approach. And I think I will not judge Ole Gunnar Solskjaer now, even though I feel that he probably isn't the right manager. But I think he can improve if we get to. This is something very important. I don't think that centre backs are as important as much as we need central midfielders right now, because our movement. You see the transition from defense to attack. Central midfielders are actually the key from defense to attack. The way that we move the ball. Right now, Fred or McTominay, they get the ball and they immediately try to pass the ball. If the body isn't moving and they're just immediately passing the ball to a forward, you're basically not drawing out defenders towards you. And as a result of that, the attackers won't be able to make the run because they don't get the space. And let's say, for example, if you had a prime Scholes or a prime Xavi or prime Iniesta, they would collect the ball, they would move forward, they would make the pass, they would move once again, they would collect the ball, they would move the ball once again. This will draw defenders, and this will create the little pockets of spaces for our attackers. And this is what McTominay and Fred are horrible at the moment. So if he gets defensive midfielders who know how to play ball like a Frank Kessie, what he did against AC Milan or for AC Milan, I think we might start playing good football again. But yeah, so far we're doing pretty well in the league. We're second and all that. I think we've sealed top four. But yeah, I still let's see, man. Let's see what happens tomorrow.
We were talking about the new contract extension. You went along the tactics way, but okay.
I think no, I think he should be given a new contract, but only if he gets his players. Because if he doesn't get the players, then we'll just have to expect the same thing that we expected this season.
Okay, I'll talk to Anshuman now. Anshuman, have a go.
Well, the simple answer is that I'm not sure why they are talking about giving him a new contract. And look, the only argument I can make for this to be happening is that the players and now the director and the technical directors and the players that you want to sign and the players that are already there, the players that want to sign a new contract, they need to know what the plan is in the long term. So it really helps if you have a manager that's not in your last year of the contract. That is the only reason I can think why people are even talking about giving him a new contract. Otherwise, I don't understand why you would put yourself in a position to do that. Always remember, United gave David Moyes a 6-year contract, sacked him 10 months into it. They gave
Mourinho.
they gave Jose Mourinho another mammoth contract in his second year. He was given one in
Yeah.
December of 2017, and he was sacked less than 12 months later. So my only point is, why would you put yourself in that position, right? And another reason is you give players and managers a contract as a matter of asset protection, right? So another club or team might not come in for you and woo you away if you are not giving a contract here. Who's coming for Solskjaer? Like this is a guy that has been given so much stake over the past 2 years, and sure, that even League Two clubs are coming out and say, "Oh, we don't want this guy. We won't hire him. Why? I don't know why he's at United." Which, jokes aside, this is a very strong position to be in, because even when we were losing losing for so many times in the early part of the season, I've always said this is a very sackable manager. He's moving into the last year of his contract. If you are Glazers, if you like to keep the monopoly of wanting to make all the decisions by yourself, this is as good an opportunity as you want, because you can sack him at the moment. If situations go so bad, it's irrevocably bad, that you just need to make a decision like you had to in Mourinho's case. Only in that situation, you had already given him such a big contract in that you had to think twice. Now you don't have to. You are not in that position. So why would you put yourself in that position? And when we earlier in the season, when United are losing constantly and dropping points, and we always talk about Solskjaer, Solskjaer, Solskjaer. And I always say that at one point we had reached at such a position that you could sack him, you could keep him. It wouldn't make a difference, because how many times have we broached on this point that without a proper system, that there is no point of sacking Solskjaer, because it is just a cycle that will repeat itself again. And I know we're going to come back to the director of football discussion to another point, but that really comes into this point of mine, because now that you have a proper system, that takes away the mandate of keeping a manager only for the sake of keeping a manager. That we can't sack him because we can bring anyone in, won't matter. That's not the case anymore, and we'll discuss the directorial part in a later segment. But the other thing right now is that the only reason Solskjaer has lasted this far in the job is more on the off field things that he has employed, instead of the on field things, because of the dressing room has not been as harmonious as it's been since Sir Alex. And there are so many things he has done, right? On the other side of things we have already broached on, things we have discussed. That so many that I keep saying that Solskjaer should not have been appointed full time. I have been the first one to say that I was really surprised when he was given full time charge, but he has really exceeded my expectations. And as far as I'm concerned, we are way past the point where we start looking at Solskjaer's managerial tenure and call this a failure or a mistake, because it has been 2.5 years now. And when you talk about average managerial cycles, we don't anymore have 10 to 15 years of cycles. We are not going to have, because an average cycle is 3 to 5 years, where a manager takes a team, gets them as far as he possibly can, and they move on, and then changes happen. So as far as what we have seen with Solskjaer right now, at the point we are right now, should he be given a third season? Absolutely. We will obviously make a more conclusive argument regarding how his 2.5 years have passed, when the season over, when the positions are locked, when we'll know if we have won any silverware or not, then we'll be able to make a much more plausible argument. But so far, at this point, does he deserve a third season? Absolutely. I think that he's been leading up to something. And in third season, he will not be able to get away with the same things he's doing right now. The same defensive problems that we have, he will not be able to get away with. The problems we have in midfield, as Wally has rightly pointed out, he'll not be able to get away with. Right? This season, the biggest argument to be made was that the other teams weren't up to their best for a lot of reasons. And that will not be the case next season, because teams are constantly evolving. Liverpool will not be this bad. City are going to upgrade. Tottenham are going to get better. And Chelsea is already getting better. And next season will be Tuchel's probably the one and only proper season that he gets. So they are going to go all guns blazing. Every team around you is going to grow. So you cannot really go into third season having the same problems of this season. That will imply stagnation, and that cannot work. And again, the argument is that Ole need to be giving his own players, because as Vali has pointed out, brightly pointed out, that he has to be played defensive so many times, because we don't probably have the players, and we keep say this so many times. Right wing, number 6, centre back. There is so many. There are players that we need, and we went in this season unprepared. I will say this again. So there are all of those situations. And yes, he deserves a third season. But if for whatever reason things do not particularly work out at the end of third season, then we are going to have to say that maybe this cycle has run its course. It's not that it's a failure. It's not that this hasn't worked out. We would have to say that it has run its course, and now you have to get someone else in to build upon what he has achieved, not undo it. But that can only happen if you put yourself in a situation, right? If you put yourself in a situation where you can let him go at the end of the season and bring someone else in. So yeah, giving him a new contract is not something I'm on board with at the moment. I can say the only reason I can see is that because everyone needs to know the long-term plan. But now that you have directorial appointments, I don't think manager has to be your centerpiece for said long-term plan. So yeah, I'm not exactly approving of this contract idea.
Okay. For me, I don't really know right now, because for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, it's I don't want this to be the same old story of the last season, and much of it has also got to do with how the fans come back into the stadium, because our major funding also comes back to the whole point, whether the fan revenue is being generated or not, and that is going to dictate our transfer market movement. So it's quite topsy-turvy at the moment, but we'll see. Okay, another point we wanted to talk about, Glazers to come under the DOF. This is an interesting one, but we'll have to touch upon it also just before we go into the score predictions. So I'll talk to Anshuman first about it. What do you think about this whole scenario?
Well, it is to a certain degree surprising because I have been the first one to bang the drum so many times that you need a proper structure. There's no point in dismissing an hiring manager if there is no structure because they dictate that. And finally, we have a directorial appointment. We have a director of football in John Murtaugh, and we have a technical director in Darren Fletcher, which is brilliant. And the other side of the cynic in me is going to look at the fact that and go, this John Murtaugh is an old associate of Ed
Hmm.
Woodward. This is the same guy that worked with David Moyes in at Everton. So that is a good story. But then he's the same guy who brought us Alexis Sanchez at Manchester United. That is not a very good story. So there are a lot of things, ups and downs in that argument that you can make. But the most important thing is this is the guy who has been at the center of our footballing decisions over the past couple of seasons. And for better or worse, irrespective of how we have spent, the appointments that we have made are nice. This is we now have a proper structure of introducing the young academy players into the squad. The players that we have bought are actually some players that work into the team, so that is good. So I'm really trying hard to focus on the fact that instead of Ed Woodward, we actually have someone who will focus on the footballing side of things. Because right now, so up until this point, I was convinced that Glazers does not want a football directorial appointment because why would you? This is the guy who instead of your sponsorship deals, instead of getting a guy that will give you signs on pillows all over the world. This is a guy who's going to talk about football to you. So why would you install an employee and pay that person to nag you constantly for something that you don't necessarily need? So that is, I think that has to do a lot with the coronavirus pandemic as well. That they have had to make a decision at this point, a decision that dictates that footballing decisions have to be taken by a person who is engaged in football and not Edward Wood, because he's still going to take care of the business side of things. But now, at least above Solskjaer, working with Solskjaer in tandem, we'll have a director of football and a technical director who will actually focus on the footballing side of things. Which again, I will again repeat from the previous segment that we don't necessarily have to focus so much on the manager. That we can actually bring a manager who can work in tandem with these players in the long term for the club. Because our priority is the club. Our priority is not the manager, not the players. Our priority is the club. So now that we can actually plan long term in a way long term planning is supposed to be made, not with the manager, but people above him. And obviously, if things do not work out, he'll again become a center of everyone's blame because that's how things usually work. But at least there is a much more coherent understanding and hierarchy at the club to be able to plan something in the long term. So yeah, it is an optimistic step, a step in the right direction. There's still a lot of work to be done, but yeah, you can't really help but feel slightly optimistic about it.
Okay, Wali, do you have any thoughts about the whole situation?
Yeah, we can take this two ways as well. The first way is that it can either be a very optimistic approach that finally Manchester United appointed director of football, which is actually good. We've appointed John Murtaugh. But the other thing which I feel is since we are not going to do much business now in the transfer window, Ed Woodward can finally split the blame with his technical directors and director of football. So basically, the fans won't, go all out on just Ed Woodward. I believe that that might just turn out to be the case because, like Anshuman said, he was one of his associates and he is your boss at the end of the day. If you say that a player is available, he is the right guy to sign. And let's be honest, we have the funds to sign certain players. We have the funds to sign a Cristiano Ronaldo. We have the funds to sign Erling Haaland. We can sign them if we want to. We were paying 400K a week to Alexis Sanchez to rot on the bench. We have the funds. So if you're not able to convince your best mate, or if your best mate is able to convince you not to get the player, I think it's going to be the same story all over again. But I can't judge him right now at the moment. Let's see what happens in the transfer window. I think it's going to be the same old story, to be honest, because in the last few press conferences, we've seen Ole Gunnar Solskjaer make statements that it's going to be another tough transfer market and lots of clubs are struggling and all that. And when he says that, it's not going to be a good sign. I expect maximum of some two signings. We'll sign one at midweek, and then we'll sign two somewhere close towards the deadline day, and then three signings on the deadline day. Panic buys. That's what it's going to be all about. And you just look at the signings that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer made this season. He signed Donny van de Beek, who isn't Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's signing. Let's all be very honest. I think Van der Sar was a better technical director of football for us in that moment of time because he made us that sale. He got us that player. He doesn't trust him as much. He doesn't start him. He's had less number of minutes than Van Dijk in the Premier League. Then he signed Amad Diallo, who hasn't got minutes either. Then he signed Edison Cavani, who's injury prone. So basically, we made shit. And then he signed Alex Telles, who doesn't get a start ahead of Luke Shaw. So that's four signings who haven't got a start at all this season. So basically, all of them were. And let's be honest. Even though we are pretty happy that Alex Telles is in our club, he wasn't our first choice left back. We wanted Serge Reguilon. So it's always about
Yeah.
us settling for our second or third choices. And the player that we were screaming out for was Jadon Sancho throughout the transfer window, particularly me, because
He was
I'm a
who
big
was
fan of
all
Sancho.
for
I
for
was
most of us
I was super
for
confident that we'll get
for
him.
most of us he was already a United player.
Yeah, I was super confident that we'll get him because the player himself wanted to move to Manchester United and he still does want to. And in spite of the player wanting to move to your club, you still end up screwing it. This you need a separate degree altogether for that.
Just
So
Manchester
yeah,
United things.
that's Ed Woodward, that's Manchester United thing. So yeah, we've got technical directors and directors of football. I'm not so confident as to we'll be back in business again. I think it's going to be the same old story.
Okay, so I think that's that for the most of things. Now we'll have one final segment of the lineup and the score prediction. First, I'll go to Anshuman about it. Anshuman, what do you have to say about the lineup and the score prediction in the AC Milan game?
Well, the score prediction that I would like to see will be a 2-2 draw because that would take us through, and that would also require United to not win the match, and that is a likely
Oh yeah,
scenario because I could completely see Zlatan picking a fight with whichever defender Oli decides to pick. It could be Bai, it could
bye.
be Victor Lindelof, his now soon to be again Swedish national team teammate. So I can completely see that happening. They have a lot more players coming back together back as well in the right side in the last match. They didn't really have particularly anyone. Samu Kastillejo did come in. He's not really the greatest player that they have. And I think Casper Salamakas is going to return. And Ismail Benacer is going to come back into the midfield as well. I just confirmed their captain, Alessio Romagnoli, is still out. But their defensive pairing in Simon Kerr, the guy who scored the last goal, and the Chelsea loanee Fekir Tomori, they're absolutely formidable. And you add to that their right-sided defense in Davide Calabria and Diego Dallo, who's been playing amazing. I don't think they really need they are coming into this a lot reinforced. I think Diego Dallo, because he always because there's an argument to be made here that he'll race his game against United. I think he can start. If Milan were to take a more defensive side of things, even to make a defensive start, Calabria would start because he doesn't offer as much going into attack. And Calabria could be moved into the midfield as well. So there is that argument to be made as well that he could be playing in a defensive pivot alongside Frank Kessie. Kieran Hernandez is going to start because he started. I think that is going to be a big threat. You would hope that Wan-Bissaka could take care of him. But if alongside him from the left-hand side, you have someone like Rafa Leao or Ante Rebic, that's going to be hard because then they're going to target Wan-Bissaka. And Wan-Bissaka can completely take care of one person on its own. That is why he takes care of Mbappe or Neymar because from the left back position in Paris Saint-Germain, they don't really have that much of a problem from the left back side. But that's not the case in Milan. So I think if those two start, I'm thinking Rebic could start alongside Theo Hernandez. That's going to be a problem for Wan-Bissaka, and that is the reason I think Daniel James will start again on the right hand side just to take care of those two players alongside Aaron Wan-Bissaka. And from the left again, it's going to be Rashford. Every match he's play is going to be an alarming one, but I don't see how he can't not start. And I don't know if Cavani is in the squad or not. I think he's back in training. I don't know if he's in squad,
He's
but
not
I
in the
think
squad. He's
Martial is
not in
going
the
to start
squad.
again.
He's not in the
No,
squad.
Martial's injured.
Martial,
Martial's injured too.
Pogba,
Martial is
Pogba is
injured
back.
too.
if
Pogba is back. Pogba is back.
He'll
Pogba
be
will be starting
okay,
again.
yeah. Martial is
so if
injured too.
Martial is
So
injured, if Martial
yeah,
is injured,
Greenwood.
so then Greenwood starts. Greenwood starts at number 9, and
Yeah.
I would like to see more of Diallo purely because he's in form right now, and no pressure
Mhm.
on him. But I think he can. The way he's playing, I think he deserves more
He's
chances.
creative as well.
And Bruno is going
He
to
is
start
creative
again.
as well. He's
He
creative
is
as well,
creative.
so
He's
we
creative.
need
He's very
that.
mature for his age. It was
Uh,
lovely to see him play last time. And in the defense again, we are going to see. I think Sledge and McTominay. I don't think this is the
mm.
kind of game Matic really suits Matic. I think the midfield is going to run us ragged, so we need an extra player to take care of that defense. There is a risk to start Pogba from the get-go, but I think Pogba is going to make an appearance. If he's taking the effort of taking him to Milan, I think Pogba is going to make an appearance. But maybe as a case of injury, and maybe he'll try to see how things will pan out. He'll start him on the bench. And if the midfield is able to do the job and we are able to see the game out, then we'll see less of Pogba. But otherwise, we can see him from the second half. And I think the defense will pretty much pick itself. It's going to be Shaw, Maguire. The It could be an interesting pick between Bailly Lindelof, but there's not going to be anywhere else. And then it's going to be Wan-Bissaka and Dean Henderson. De Gea is back. His quarantine is now over, so it will be interesting to see in the Premier League who takes place, because Dean Henderson has made a pretty decent case of himself. He has been quite solid, and which again brings into a bigger discussion as to who should be our number one goalkeeper for next season. But I think that is going to be the sides for tomorrow's match. It's going to be a cagey affair. I would be very happy with a 2-2 draw.
Okay, Wally, what are your thoughts about the starting 11 and your prediction for the game?
Yeah, before I mention the starting 11, Anshuman mentioned Dean Henderson's name over here, and I'm once again mad at the Glazers and Ed Woodward, because we all know that Dean Henderson is a really good goalkeeper, and so is David De Gea. So right now you've divided the fan base once again, and there's certain people who are defending David De Gea, there's certain people who are backing Dean Henderson, and this is not good for the club either. And you could have just put him on loan once again, because you had Sergio Romero, who was basically a very good number two goalkeeper. But these are the things that confuse me, honestly, from Manchester United's perspective. But anyway, talking about the lineup, it'll be Dean Henderson. I think Luke Shaw has to start, obviously. Then it will be Harry Maguire and Eric Bailly, because Eric Bailly, he did play in the first leg, if I'm not mistaken. And then you have Aaron Wan-Bissaka as the right back. I pray to God that McTominay and Fred do not start in tandem. I pray that it's McTominay or it's Pogba has to start with either McTominay or Fred. I do not care. I'm tired of McTominay and Fred partnering up together. There is literally zero penetration from that midfield. And then it has to be Bruno Fernandes as the number 10, Marcus Rashford on the left. You have Mason Greenwood up front. Even though I want Amad Diallo to start on the right, I know it's going to be Dan James, because he gives you that defensive work ethic as well. And another thing that I would like to say about here, even though that I did defend Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to an extent in the previous segment, one thing that he doesn't make easy for himself is that he needs to make decisions such as substitutions and all that in a proper manner. Because in the previous game against West Ham, he made 0 substitutions. I did not get that. You saw that Marcus Rashford was in pain. All right, Bruno Fernandes had to be in the pitch because we did not have Donny van de Beek or Paul Pogba. But if Marcus Rashford is actually holding his ankle, he's holding his shoulder, he's injured. You saw Amad Diallo had a good game against Milan. Why didn't you bench him and let Amad Diallo come in place of him? So you need to protect and preserve your players at moments such as these, because you're running Rashford to the ground right now, and this will just shorten his career with the way how things are going. So yeah, we can say we're adding a lot of pressure on an 18-year-old, but with the looks of things, by the look of things, Amad Diallo's footballing IQ is on another level. He's a quality footballer. If we trusted Greenwood at 18, if we trusted Rashford at 18, if we trusted Martial at 18, then we should also trust Amad Diallo at 18. What worse can he do? I think he's a good footballer. If the opportunity arises, you need to bench your players. And this is the same thing which I kept on saying for Bruno as well. You're running Bruno to the ground. If Van de Beek is fit, substitute him and play him at the number 10. He'll do a good job. He won't do anything worse. He won't do something as worse as what McTominay and Fred do at certain occasions. So yeah, this is what I feel my 11 would be.
And the score prediction.
I think it's going to go to extra time, and we just might be able to nick it. I think it'll be 2-1, and Pogba has to start, man. I just hope that Pogba starts.
Okay, it's going to be 2-1 for you, 1-1 in normal time, and then in extra time we nick a goal. So, for me, I believe we are going to win it in normal time. It's going to be a 1-0 or a 2-1 in our favor in 90 minutes. We're not going in the extra time. I don't think so.
If the match goes to extra time, then we have to stay up till 4:30 in the morning, and if we lose at 4:30 a.m.,
No, I'm sleeping, brother. I'm sleeping.
I cannot. I'll have insomnia for weeks to come, man.
No, man, I can't mess up my sleep.
The previous time kickoff time was actually quite good. It was 11:30 p.m.
Yeah,
it would
because
have been better.
it was at Old Trafford. No, it was at Old Trafford.
Yeah, man.
It's because of the Italian time bullshit. Let it be. We'll have a talk about the game after the game is done. That's that from us at Man United. Any final thoughts, Anshuman?
Nah, that will be all. Let's hope that we win tomorrow and go through.
Okay, let's hope we win tomorrow and go through. Wali, any final thoughts?
Yeah, man. I'm glad that we are the underdogs. If we go out, we go out. Yeah, too fine. And if we win, that'll be great. That's that's the attitude that I have right now.
Okay, good for you. Okay, we'll have a go at United or at AC Milan once the game is finished. We'll see you guys again, hopefully very soon. See you guys. Bye bye.